AEW Full Gear 2022 is taking place tonight. We now have the entire card revealed for the show, and I'm going to give my predictions on what I think is going to happen. Good day everyone, I am Jeremy and thank you very much for watching this video. As mentioned, focusing on the AEW Full Gear 2022 pay-per-view, taking place tonight and overnight, from a UK perspective, on Fight TV, obviously going to be on pay-per-view and such as well. Today, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the card for this event, because it is a stacked lineup, as per usual, with AEW pay-per-views, with the most recent additions being added on Rampage that aired last night. To begin proceedings on that front, let's focus on the World Title Eliminator Tournament. When it comes to the brackets, Ricky Starks has now advanced after beating Lance Archer, and he will be facing Brian Cage in essence, the pre-show, but what they're calling 0 Hour during that show. They've now added that semi-final match to that extra hour, as it were. The main reason being, the tournament was meant to end at the pay-per-view, but due to Ricky Starks having an injury, they've shuffled it around. The final is now going to take place on the Dynamite TV show this coming Wednesday. The cynical side of me says Ricky Starks is going to win this, purely because in the past, AEW have not been afraid just to throw in another replacement for someone in a tournament. So it leads me to think they've got plans for Ricky Starks, which, good, he's freaking great, quite frankly. So I see Ricky Starks getting the win, of which I think we're going to get a little bit of a play up on the fact these two used to be friends and partners in Team Taz and such. They even played it up on commentary a little bit during Dynamite as well. So I think this is going to be a really fun match, and then we will probably end up getting a Ricky Starks win in the tournament. I've just got that feeling, given that the Winter is Coming event, where the winner of the tournament will get the eventual title shot against the champion, is going to be taking place in Texas, and Ricky Starks has got a very strong affiliation there. So I just think the stars are aligning in that sense for ultimately a Ricky Starks tournament win. Also added to the show. Now this was added on Rampage last night. This is stemming from a match that was, I want to say it was Orange Cassidy and Lee Johnson for the All-Atlantic title, and QT Marshall pile-drove Danhausen into the steel steps, and we then kind of had a little backstage segment where basically the best friends challenged the Factory to a 10-man tag match, and they then played a video kind of highlighting who their other partner is going to be, excluding Rocky Romero, who randomly popped into the picture, and it was quite funny the way that they did that. All signs point to it being Danhausen, and quite possibly, look, it's outright going to be Danhausen, let's just call it like it is, and he's probably going to get some measure of revenge as well. I don't see this being anything other than a best friends win. I think it's going to be just a bit of fun, probably some goofy comedy and whatnot, but I think it's going to be good fun. The ultimate thing is going to be, though, what's Danhausen going to do? So I think that's going to be the crux of the match, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds. Another match that has been added to the card, which, peek behind the curtain, I've just found out after recording this video, is going to be Eddie Kingston v Jun Akiyama. I am so excited about this. This is following on from the tag match that was the main event of Rampage last night, which I thought was a really, really fun match. Also, it was really freaking good to see Takeshita back. Really, really great to see him. This was set up after the show had gone off the air. There's a video on the AEW Twitter where Eddie Kingston basically calls out Tony Khan to give him the match. Tony Khan comes out, books it, says everyone in the world can watch it. We're adding it to 0 Hour. And then we got a stare down between Akiyama and Eddie Kingston. And this dream match for Eddie is happening on the 0 Hour of Full Gear. Meaning, as Tony Khan said, everyone in the world can watch it. This is a great decision. It's another match on what is already going to be a loaded night of wrestling, but I'm a big fan of Japanese wrestling, so the selfish part of me is like, yeah, I'm well up for this. I can't wait to see it. I'm also really happy for Eddie Kingston. He's going to be like a kid at Christmas in that ring, battling one of his heroes. This is going to be really, really good fun. And while I perhaps might say going in, it's not going to be anywhere near the caliber of the Eddie Kingston Ishii match that we got a few pay-per-views back, this is still going to be great fun. And again, for Eddie Kingston, this is a dream match, so it's a wonderful thing for him. Very happy this has been added to the 0 Hour. I should add before moving on, it wouldn't surprise me if Eddie wins this, though I can bet you he would much rather want to lose to Akiyama, so it could well be that Akiyama might win it. It's a bit of a pick'em. For the purposes of this video, Akiyama win. I've just got a feeling. Akiyama win. That's what I'm going to go with. As we get onto the pay-per-view event proper, when it comes to matches, we don't know what the ultimate ordering is going to be, so I'm just taking a stab at the dark at just all the matches in any order they're going to appear as I discuss them. So first up, Steel Cage match, Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Luchasaurus. I don't see this being anything other than a Jungle Boy win. Whether this is ultimately going to be the end of the feud between him and Christian, I don't think so. If anything, what I would kind of like to happen at this point is, this is maybe like, what's the way to put it? This is kind of the final stop for a while, as it were, until Christian is fully healed and maybe he comes back down the line, cost Jungle Boy a big opportunity, then we finally get the big blow-off match between those two, and then they can go in their separate ways. But this is going to be great fun. Luchasaurus and Jack Perry have got great chemistry with each other. Their match on Dynamite a few weeks ago was really good fun, and just the stuff that they're willing to do as well. This is going to be great, great action. But like I say, I don't see this being anything other than a Jungle Boy win. But then again, I've been proven wrong many a time, be it on podcasts or just talking anecdotally with friends and such. So it wouldn't surprise me if Luchasaurus randomly got the win, but logic says now it's time for Jack Perry to get a win so he can finally move forward from all of this. Next up, TBS Championship. Jade Cargill, the actual champion, defending her title against self-proclaimed champion Nyla Rose. I have been saying for a while now, personally, and again on podcasts and such, that I think the Jade Cargill hype train has really derailed a bit. It's really slowed down, and they need to pick up the speed again, because we're at the point now where Jade is just beating people she's already beaten multiple times. I just don't feel that excited, despite the fact that her entire presentation is freaking amazing. She's got an awesome presence about her. Everything about her looks fantastic. She's got some killer moves as well and is clearly getting better in the ring as we go along. But we're at the point now where does this go? The only next logical step is she loses the title. Is it going to be to Nyla Rose on this show? No, I don't think so. Nyla Rose is awesome. I love everything that Nyla does. Nyla's just got a great sense of charisma about her. Great fun. Just everything about Nyla is so damn good. But ultimately, I think the one to dethrone Jade, should be Willow Nightingale. I think that is the next logical progression. I appreciate I'm going to kind of sound like a hypocrite now, because yes, Jade has beaten Willow at least once or twice now, I think. But I think there is just an element where Willow is the next natural fit for this championship, because quite frankly, what is this championship? And another video I'm probably going to do soon, maybe focusing on the state of the championships, and actually more specifically, as I'll probably get onto in a few moments, the AEW women's title and the whole interim title situation. So I think they really need to do something to spice the whole Jade Cargill train back up. I'm not entirely sure what they could do. Maybe they could just make her outright a face, because she's still being a bad guy. But quite frankly, I don't think many people want to just be against her, if that makes sense. It's a very weird dynamic, but either way, I don't see this being anything other than a Jade Cargill win. Next up, TNT Championship. The ROH TV champion, which that title is not on the line, Samoa Joe, against the champion Wardlow against Powerhouse Hobbs. This is going to be great fun. This is just going to be three giant dudes just beating the piss out of each other. It's going to be great fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think Wardlow is going to retain. It would not surprise me, maybe say come the Winter is Coming show, if Powerhouse Hobbs dethrones Wardlow in some way. That said, there's probably an easy way for Wardlow to be beaten in this match without actually being beaten to get the belt off of him. But I think the Samoa Joe Wardlow thing may continue for a while longer. I think there's probably a bit more legs to that. And also, they can still fight over a championship, that being the ROH TV title, which Joe hasn't defended in a while, quite frankly. So, if they want to put some focus on it, especially with an ROH pay-per-view coming up, maybe that is the way to go about it. So, for the purposes of this show, I'm going to say Wardlow, but I honestly would not be surprised if Powerhouse Hobbs did walk away with the belt in some way, shape, or form on this show. Next up, a surreal match in many ways. Sting and Darby Allin against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. I remember when I was much younger, watching the Halloween Havoc 2000 match between Sting and Jeff Jarrett. And that match was quite surreal in itself. Not to use that word too many times here, because there were different incarnations of Sting, like people dressed up as him coming out to be a distraction and such. There was a lot of stuff going on in that match. Then obviously, they then carried on their feud eventually into TNA, aka Impact Wrestling. And now in 2022, we're getting Sting and Jeff Jarrett in the same ring. I don't see this being anything other than a Sting and Darby Allin win. Personally, they're actually undefeated as a tag team as well. Heck, maybe at some point they'll get a tag title shot. That'd be cool, I think, just for a bit of fun more than anything. I don't see this being anything other than a Sting and Darby Allin win. I think Sting will probably do something crazy. Maybe he'll dive off the set, do a balcony dive, he just does that now. I don't think Jeff Jarrett will do that, mind you. But I'm going to call this now. I bet Jeff Jarrett will whack Sting with a guitar, and Sting will just suddenly, sting her up, as it were. He'll just suddenly have a house... He'll suddenly be like a house on fire. He will effectively Hulk up, if you will. And then we'll probably ultimately get the win. I see that happening because that will be a nice, fun visual. So, my pick, Sting and Darby Allin. This match is going to have a lot of eyeballs on it. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, against Saraya. There are two ways this match is ultimately going to be perceived. It's either going to be a tremendous comeback story for Saraya, everyone's going to be really happy she's back, and it's just a lot of positivity. Or it's going to be the other way, where people's reactions are going to be, what the heck, this was awful. I genuinely hope it's the former. Saraya is awesome. The dynamic of this feud they've built up, I think, has certainly been twisted on its head a little bit from recent promos. In terms of how this match should unfold in terms of the result, personally, I think Britt Baker should win. I think there should be an element where if Saraya, realistically, has not wrestled at all for the better part of 5 years, I think it is now, and Britt Baker is on top of the AEW ladder, if you will, she should win this. That's the way I see this going, and then maybe build up to Saraya getting another opportunity to kind of then scratch that loss off of her record as time goes on. But I can understand if they want to have the feel-good ending of Saraya getting the win. I just think, personally, it should be Britt Baker that gets the win. That's my take on it. I'm just hoping this match really goes well, though. I want this to go well. I think this needs to go well. And I really hope it is. I'm sure the crowd are going to be up for it, because it's something genuinely special that no one thought would actually happen. So, I am going with a Britt Baker win. If I'm ultimately wrong, or you want to just say I'm stupid for that, feel free to say in the comments and whatnot. I don't mind. It's my opinion. I'm probably wrong a lot of the time. Say lovey. ROH Championship 4-way match. Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara challenging Chris Jericho, the champion, in a 4-way match. Now, on Rampage last night, they played up again in the backstage segment that Sammy Guevara doesn't like the idea that he's just going to help Jericho retain. Now, whether that's going to be a little bit of a swerve, who ultimately knows? In terms of who's going to win, I think Jericho will retain. It wouldn't surprise me if Jericho pins Sammy, which may be weird because then would that cause dissension and stuff. I think it won't be a case that Jericho was targeting Sammy. I think it will kind of be one of those things where, for example, Danielson hits the knee, his Busaiku knee on Sammy, or Claudio hits the neutralizer or similar, and then Jericho throws them out and steals the pin. I think it may be something of that ilk. But I think, given that Claudio has beaten Jericho, I want to say twice in the last month or so now. There was the tag match on Dynamite. I think there's been more than... He's had another win recently. I think this is building to a Bryan Danielson v Jericho match at the Final Battle pay-per-view. In terms of a star-studded main event and a high-caliber one, I think that is a great place for Danielson to dethrone Jericho. If it were to happen on this show, fine, I won't complain. But I think the whole Jericho being the Ring of Dishonor champion, the Ring of Jericho, if you will, I think there's still got some more legs to that. I think they can extend that a bit further. So I'm going with the Jericho win by pinning Sammy in that sneaky style that I just mentioned. Tag team titles of AEW. The Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory. There's two ways this is going to go, in my opinion. One, Given that Swerve and Our Glory have been in dissension with each other recently, this is ultimately going to be the breakup of that tag team, which leads the Acclaimed to retaining in some way, shape, or form. Or it's going to turn out that Swerve and Our Glory have actually been fine the entire time, and they've just played this up on television, if you will, and they're ultimately, in essence, going to cheat to win, doing the thing that Keith Lee didn't like Swerve doing, or as he's been saying in recent weeks. Then stealing the titles from the Acclaimed. But the other element of this is, do you dethrone the Acclaimed at this stage? They're really freaking popular. If it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. There's an element where I don't think they need the tag team titles. I think they're still popular enough to warrant them still appearing on Dynamite and stuff every week and doing their thing. But obviously them being the champions adds an extra level of prestige to it. But Swerve and Our Glory are a flipping great tag team. And there's an element where, in a perfect world, I want FTR to become quadruple champions. And if they've got to dethrone the AEW champions to do it, I think the Acclaimed and FTR can have a really good match. I think Swerve and Our Glory and FTR will be freaking great. And I want to see it, because we've seen it already. It was a really fun match. It might even just be a three-way, let's be fair, down the line. But part of me thinks that is how it's all going to ultimately unfold. Who am I going to pick for this pay-per-view, though? I will go with an Acclaimed win. I'm actually more of the mindset that Swerve and Our Glory are probably going to break up, because Swerve has proven he can wrestle damn fine on his own, quite frankly, and Keith Lee could also wrestle damn fine on his own. It wouldn't surprise me if we end up getting a bit of a one-on-one feud featuring the two, which I think could be really great fun, seeing those two wrestle each other for a number of weeks. So I'm going with an Acclaimed win. AEW Interim Women's World Championship. The whole interim title situation, that needs to get resolved. Like I said, I'm probably going to make another video talking about that specifically, because there is an inconsistency, a big one, when it comes to how this interim title has been handled. That aside, though, leaving that to the side for the purpose of this discussion, I want Jamie Hayter to win this. Jamie Hayter is my pick. It wouldn't surprise me if Toni Storm ends up retaining, so that ultimately leads to the unification match with Thunder Rosa, whenever that may be. But I think Jamie Hayter, there is something really special about her with the AEW fan base right now. They want her to be doing more. This match is going to be great. It wouldn't surprise me if this is a strong contender for match of the night. I think one of the other matches I'll be talking about is probably going to wipe the floor with everything because of how ridiculous it's going to be. But I think this is going to be right up there, and I am super looking forward to this. These two have great chemistry with each other. I think this is going to be a freaking great match. Jamie Hayter is my pick, and I cannot wait to see it happen. This match is the match I was referring to when I said I think it's just probably going to easily wipe the floor when it comes to being match of the night because of how insane it's going to be. Trios tag titles. Death Triangle defend against the Elite. They've been playing up that Death Triangle are having a bit of dissension with the whole Pac liking to use the ring bell hammer and whatnot in his matches. That was not present at all on this week's television shows on Dynamite. Whether that's just a little, it'll make you forget about that for a little bit and maybe something will happen at the pay-per-view, who knows. I think the Elite are going to win. This is the most logical match when it comes to the next challengers for the Death Triangle, given the Elite were the inaugural champions and had to vacate. This is in essence kind of the interim title situation without being the interim title situation in many ways. So I think the Elite are going to win, and then I think the Trios titles are going to get far more of a presence, which I think is really needed, because Trios matches are always great fun. They just are, and there needs to be more of a focus on this. And this might be something else that I do a bit of a focus on in another video, because even in other promotions where there are Trios titles, you can have so many different combinations of people to challenge. And in some promotions, like for example the Dragon Gate promotion in Japan, if you're familiar with that, they have a Trios title belt where more often than not, that title changes hands fairly frequently because there are so many different combinations of people that have to challenge for the titles that the champions simply can't handle it, as it were, but because there are so many different variables, it makes it a very hard title to actually be the champions of, and you've really got to fight to keep them. That's what I think these belts need to be. So I'm going with an Elite win. It also wouldn't surprise me if this is the catalyst for Death Triangle breaking up and the Lucha Bros being their own element, and Pac being his own element as well. Main event time. Jon Moxley against MJF for the AEW title. The variables in this match: will the firm get involved? And William Regal. The way that Dynamite ended with the stare down between them and Regal standing slap bang in the middle of them, and the fact that we've had this whole build-up of Max isn't going to use the diamond ring to cheat to get the win, but they've shown William Regal still has the brass knuckles. I think that's a very easy logical assumption that brass knuckles might be used instead. Will Regal turn on Moxley? Who knows? Regal loves to be a villain. Maybe he's just wants to be on the Max train, if you will, the MJF train, in terms of helping him become a next level villain. There's so many different variables in this. Is this the time for MJF to win the belt, though? I love Moxley as champion. He's easily been the MVP of the year for AEW. I will die on that hill, as it were. Moxley is the MVP of the year, given everything he's had to do and been champion multiple times during all the circumstances and such. But is now the time to strike the iron with MJF? It could well be. Whether he's ultimately going to be the babyface or a heel, again, there's far too many variables to call, but all the stars kind of point to, yeah, it probably should be the time. Or at the very least, catalysts should be... The catalyst for change in this element of the story should happen on this show. For example, maybe Regal does turn, but Moxley ultimately retains, for example. I don't think that should happen, quite frankly. I think this has got to be definitive, this has happened situation. But for the purposes of this, MJF win. That's what I'm going to go with. Again, I love Mox as champion. It wouldn't surprise me if he keeps the belt, but thinking further on, especially with the Winter is Coming show as well, when it comes to the tournament final winners, for the tournament I was speaking of earlier, Ethan Page and Ricky Starks. Ethan Page currently has a bit of a thing going on with MJF, given that the firm have been attacking MJF. But Ricky Starks as well, the MJF, will be a damn good match as well, and they can frickin' talk it up as well, both of them. So, I'm gonna go with an MJF win. That said, if Mox does just retain, totally happy with that. Absolutely fine with that. Completely. I didn't even know what I was going to say then, but that's how I've ended this. With that being said, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to leave a comment below, I'd really appreciate it. You can also find me streaming on Twitch under the name Jeraffemy. You can find the link in the description below, and you can find my primary YouTube channel as well, which mainly focuses on unboxing videos and showing you what is on the discs of Blu-rays as well. Again, link in description below. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy Full Gear, and have a nice day.